What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Kingdom Society. Here I am, Jake Ballentine, with Chuck Schofield. Chuck, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. Excited to be back. I'm a little too over prepared for this one, so buckle up, everybody.
Well, we're excited to talk about trains, trams, and monorails. Before we get into that, like always, let's talk about some things that we consumed. There we go. We got all sorts of merch today. Got all
We
sorts
got
of merch. I
all
love it.
sorts of merch today, brother. My show and tell segment is too big today, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, we started before recording here, breaking the fourth wall, that already talking about stuff that we consumed, because that's what Jake and I do. We get together and we talk about all this stuff we consumed. Of course, we're going to save the pro wrestling stuff or other stuff for a different show on a different time on a different channel.
Yes.
But it's funny how we started just talking about this recent stuff we've consumed and the overall theme of it recently. But then we were both like, "Oh, no, go ahead and press record. Let's go." Like, because it's been a minute since we last recorded.
Yep.
And we've both consumed quite a bit of content, both of stuff about the 50th anniversary, stuff about people being uncomfortable with the company right now. People upset with Bob Chapek. People accuse, WDWNT getting in fights with HR or with the public relations people from Disney. Tom Corliss's brand of loyal criticism has really grown on me. I've really fallen in love with him and their whole project over the past year or so.
What a great way to put it. Loyal criticism. I've never heard that, but you're right. It's a very interesting way to put it.
So loyal, and in all the right ways. And all the criticism is directed towards wanting something that you love to be better,
Yeah.
And so you brought up before we pressed record the recent negative tone. Go into that. What was rubbing you right and what was rubbing you wrong about the current tone of the content that's out there?
Well, it's not that any of the content creators are doing anything wrong, because they're not saying anything that isn't true or isn't real. They're not doing that. But so much of the content that is being created by the people that we know and love has a negative negative topics, negative what they're talking about, but it continues on. And I'd say they're just talking about what's going on, but whether it's an episode about choices within the company, whether it's an episode about not being able to get reservations, whether it's an episode criticizing whatever,
Genie Plus.
Yeah, exactly. Genie Plus, all those different kinds of things. And like I said, I don't think any of them are doing anything wrong. But I've just noticed being a little bit tired of it, because typically I'm not watching Disney content. I'm not watching, that kind of content for the purpose of, I want to get involved in, what's wrong with the world. I'm kind of trying to escape from day-to-day challenges and kind of go into this escapism and this dream world and all that kind of thing. But at the same time, I think that they have a challenging job in front of them right now, because a part of their job is to share what is happening. And I don't think that we're asking them to sugarcoat things, but it's just interesting that me as a viewer, I'm finding myself kind of exhausted from it. And I think the reason why is because I care. See, if I didn't care, I would just be entertained by it. but because I really care about the things that they're saying, I find that instead of leaving feeling inspired, I leave watching the video feeling angry and just not great about it.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head of how awkward it is right now.
Yeah.
But I was thinking as you were talking about that silly slogan I like to say at the end of every episode: keep consuming and keep creating, right? And ideally, that's to encourage consumption of awesome creations and then being inspired to create more yourself, right? But that always has to be looked at through the lens of what's sustainable, right? We can't just consume forever and just be consumers, and we can't just produce and create forever. That we have to work within scarcity laws of natural resources and time and money, and but also, to your point, when we're consuming so much positive, happy news, like, hey, this thing got announced, and doesn't this concept art look awesome, and look at all these improvements. Well, that feeds me in a different way than consuming a lot of content created by the same creators that's just reporting on what's happening that's not within their control.
Totally.
That's all about cost cutting, fighting with talent, fighting with Johansson, unions, Disney strike, Disney workers going to go on strike, raises that weren't given because of whatever reason, budgets that were cut for concept art that never showed up. You know, it feeds you different, or it
Totally.
takes a different sort of energy to consume. That's hard to articulate, you know.
Yeah. Well, and it's zero. It's funny because I'm giving criticism about criticism, but it's not that. It has no fault on the this by no means has any fault on the creators. It's just an awkward time.
Mm-hmm.
It's an awkward time, and I think that the company's certainly making some questionable decisions.
I've already seen the hashtag going around, Save Disney. And it's funny that is an allusion to the Roy Disney campaign to remove Eisner.
But it was also his same campaign to get Eisner in.
Yeah, which is funny too, right? But it's funny that I was thinking of it in the campaign to remove Eisner, which all happened through newsletters.
Yeah.
Because there was no internet, and it was basically newsletters, bumper stickers, and news media actual interviews. Like, because there was no internet, there was no social media. And then now it's like a lot of the people that consume most Disney content creator stuff since, for the last 10, 12 years, they don't remember a time that was this sort of heavy.
Yeah, you're right. And it was, though. I remember the Paul Pressler era, that kind of time where things were just kind of cheapy at the time. And it kind of reminds me of it. In fact, well, I'll say this, that some really great things. I went to day before Halloween, went to Oogie Boogie Bash. I mean, that thing that just did this incredible, over the top, really, really incredible. They did amazing. Had a great time at Disneyland as well. Had a really, really great time. But one thing that I noticed that I haven't seen since like late 90s, early 2000s is just like maintenance in the park is not what it not what it once was. And now here I go kind of saying the same kind of stuff that I'm saying is heavy, but it's just such an interesting time.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
think to your point though, like, hey, everybody, Jake was a little hesitant to go here today, but I still encouraged him to do so because I think it's worth acknowledging that it's happening. I think it's worth acknowledging that it's uncomfortable. And I think it's worth remembering the dark times of the past were overcome too, whether it was
yes.
trying to get rid of Eisner or the fear before with the whole buyout. Someone that one guy that in the 80s that tried to buy him out, or the 70s that were all dark and lonely without Walt, or like the company goes up and down, you know,
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
and so does the excitement of the news and everything. So does their relationship with their staff. So does their relationship with their surrounding cities, you know, like, so we'll get through this together and we'll get,
That's a good point.
yeah, we'll get through it together and we'll get through it by consuming cool stuff from the past. But before we get there, it's funny. The other reason I wanted to make sure we riffed on that a little bit was because what of all the things that I consumed since the last time we met, and I wrote down a bunch, I just want to share one related to this point and related to this little series we're doing on the show Behind the Attractions. One of the stars of the first episode was the Imagineer Kevin Lively. You remember him? He was a former skipper.
Yes.
And he was also the guy who was behind the Adventureland trading game,
Yes.
who
Which
made
I loved.
he designed all the little
Loved it.
jujus, all the juju little charm things,
Uh-huh.
and really cool guy. Well, since that episode was filmed, between then and now, Bob Chapek decided to move Imagineering to Florida. Several of the Imagineers chose not to go. Kevin Lively was one of them.
Mm.
And the content that I've consumed that I wanted to mention is his TikTok. His TikTok that he's just made just since he left perfectly illustrates this awkward, melancholy sort of sadness for what's going on in the company right now. I don't know his whole backstory. I don't know the whole reasons why he chose to not go or whatever. But on his TikTok, he's cleaning out his old office.
Mm.
And just the little stories he tells about each little thing is just, it's awesome. It's entertaining. There's also this melancholy background tone of like, man, it sucks that this creative guy is not in the company anymore. That's really
Yeah.
sad, you know. And
Yeah.
I hope the best for him. I hope his future's bright. I'm very curious. I'd love to interview him on the show one day. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
But
I'd love to see what he's doing, what he's going to do now.
yeah, follow his TikTok. I forgot exactly what it's called, but just look up Kevin Lively. It's something like, I'll find it right now. But yeah, anyway, I thought that was totally worth mentioning. Not just because like I was going to mention that anyway, but it seemed perfect after you said what you said, and he was one of the stars of the first episode of the show.
Yeah, totally. Ah, that's really cool. I like that. Chuck, you have a way of taking things that are kind of negative and turning them into seeing that positive. It's like you have a sage wisdom in like, hey man, just wait it out. It'll all be fine.
I appreciate the compliment, but it's I'm not trying to be a spin doctor here, but it's, you know, as someone with a history background, it's important to put things in the bigger perspective of, you know, the last 15 years of social media. you know.
Yeah, that's true. And you look at any other quote unquote dark time in the company, or specifically the park's history. Um, there's never been social media to point it all
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe it's all a little bit too magnified.
Yeah,
Like even the beef between Disney PR and WDWNT. Did you see that story?
I did. Yeah.
And like his response last night,
Uh-huh.
uh, he was like, "You are the CEO of the biggest media company in the world. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. Nothing I say should ruffle your feathers.
Yeah.
Like, what is your problem?
Yeah.
Like,
So
why do
something
you
like
care?"
I shouldn't even be on your radar.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
how is someone like me getting under your skin? Like, like that, which is, like I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said, right?
Totally.
But
Totally.
it was like, wow, like why would the PR even care to reply?
Totally. Because it's
Like,
such a niche. Like, we think about it as like, oh wow, that's cool. Like, look at this guy who's doing all this stuff. But like, and it is really cool. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, it- most people at Disneyland, most people in the park, you could use what is the name of the people who create these rides as a trivia question, and at least half of them would not say Imagineer. I mean,
uh,
that's
1% of the people that walk through the gates know who Bob Chapek is.
yeah.
Like, what? Yeah. Anyway, but it's I found his TikTok. It's Lively Land. Lively Land.
Okay,
Kevin
cool. Yeah,
Lively.
that's really cool.
Totally
That's
worth a
awesome.
follow. Anyway, what's one or what have you consumed since we last
Well,
recorded?
I've consumed a lot of things, but rather than something I've consumed, I'm going to say something that I'm about to consume, and that is a
Ooh,
friend
ooh, I've got one of
sent
those
me,
too. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
a friend sent me this book for my birthday last week, and I have not read it
Oh,
before.
official Creative Kingdom Society. Happy birthday note to Jake. Woo!
Thank you, thank you. So the an American original, and I'm excited to read this book. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Who's the author of that one again?
This one is Bob Thomas.
Was he on? I was he on any of these? I don't remember
I'm
now.
not sure.
I forget.
I'm
I feel
not
bad now,
sure,
but
but
no, I've heard good stuff about that one.
this was a unsolicited gift that was sent to me, and which was kind of cool because they just thought, hey, I saw this at they saw it at a used bookstore and thought, hey, Jake's birthday's around the corner, he needs this. So and it's one that I have not read, so I'm excited about it.
That's rad. That's rad. I remembered I wanted to plug one that I was about to consume too. I'll mention it next time, and if I don't, remind me.
Okay.
I'm excited. Episode 4 of the Backside of Waters series on Tomorrowland
Oh, cool, I saw
just
that.
came out today, I think. So I totally want to watch, listen to that one as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. All right, well, let's jump into this. Trains, trams, and monorails. Um, I just, what a cool thing to do that. One thing that's beautiful about Disney parks is that the transportation is a part of the park, and I love the overarching theme of this was, now they didn't say this, but I wanted them to, like, I wanted them to say this so bad. I wanted them to say that Walt Disney said, never lose sight that it all started with a mouse, but when it comes to the parks, it all started with the train. And that really is what the
Is that
whole
a Walt
thing.
quote? Is that a Walt quote?
No, 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 no. I made it up. I'm saying that he
Oh,
should have.
oh.
I'm
I
saying
was
that
gonna
they
say,
should have.
I was gonna say, like, if that was a Walt quote I had never heard before, that's a really good quote, right?
No. I
But
was
if you
saying
just
that
made that up, yeah, no, that would have been a
they
really good line.
they
for
could have
this point.
scripted that
Yeah,
and said, like, when they were talking about the train and they were talking
yeah,
about that whole thing, but they did keep going back there. They kept
yeah,
going
no,
back
yeah,
to the
yeah,
idea that really the whole park only happened because of the idea of the train and the train set. And I love Roy
and
talking
his
about the
desire
train.
to share it with everybody.
Yeah, but then also
Yeah,
the Main Street vehicles and all that, all of it. All of it was his love for transportation is what started. I need a physical place. I thought that was so cool.
yeah, yeah. I want to totally riff on that, but I should have warned you about this ahead of time, or back when we were being all sad. I do want to mention the one sad thing that I want to mention
Oh
right
yeah,
now. Get it
bring
out
it
of the
back.
way so that the rest of the episode will be positive and happy and everything. But I was reminded that through one of the WDW News Tonight episodes, I forget which one, they were going over the 50 biggest things that have happened over the past 50 years. And one of them reminded me and answered a question that you asked in one of our previous episodes about when you went to Walt Disney World and you asked to sit in the front of the monorail and they told you no. And we both laughed it off and thought that was silly. I knew that there was a reason, but I didn't remember what it was at the time. And we just both chalked it up to like, oh, well, in Florida, it's real transportation, and in California, it's a ride. So maybe there's different laws or rules or whatever. And
Oh,
maybe
that's
that's
what
why
a
you
cast
can't
member
ride in the
told
front.
me. That's what a cast member
Well,
said.
that's a cute PR corporate sanitized version then.
Mm.
Because this episode of WDW News Tonight reminded me that I forgot to look up the year. I apologize before recording this, but in 2008 or 9 or 10 or somewhere in there, it's when they had the crash and the person died in Florida.
Mm.
And ever since the crash and the person died, they said no more people sitting in the front. And
Ah,
that's why you can't sit in the front in Florida anymore.
interesting.
Yeah.
So they run on the same rails?
There was some problem with one of the sensors of one of the things, and the one was on the wrong track. And I forgot the whole story. I remember looking it up when it happened because there was one of those mugs from Starbucks that were coming out, and an Epcot one that was like purple. But one of the monorails involved in that was the purple monorail. So they pulled all those mugs off the shelf immediately. And I remember thinking like, I want one of those mugs. And then I thought, oh no, that's bad. Like they pulled it because someone died in this tragic act. Like, I forgot, like something was supposed to happen if that happened and it didn't. And I don't remember what it was, but that's why since then, no one rides in the front. The other thing that brought that up to my attention when I was all the stories on Todd James Pierce Disney History Institute podcast about the 50th and the opening of the 50th, and all the Imagineers wanting to ride in the front with families for the first time as they go through the Contemporary for the first time, because it's like, whoa, and I think even in this episode they had the John Hench story of sitting in the front and right. Yeah. And so I was like, wait a minute. So when did they stop that? And then I saw that episode and I was like, oh yeah, when the people died. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And that kind of brings up, like, you look at the one thing they bring up there is that for the most part, transportation at Disneyland is an attraction or a showcase, where at Disney World, it actually is transportation because it's massive. But when it's actually transportation, you have a lot more of those kinds of issues because there's no way it would be impossible for there to be an accident at Disneyland on the monorail because it's a loop.
Well,
But
there would have to be a catastrophic failure of like one of the trains breaking down and the other one not communicating, and then
Yeah,
like
totally.
yeah, it's totally wouldn't happen. There was that one story back in the 70s where someone tried to sneak into a grad night or something, and he was running on the monorail track and he got killed.
Oh,
Yeah, there was one death like that or
why? Because
something.
he lost his balance, or
No, I think he got hit.
oh,
I don't
geez.
remember. I don't remember. And I should have looked up the details before even mentioning something like that. That's irresponsible of me. But we're not journalists. We're just two schmucks on the YouTubes. Okay, so we can fix that in the comments later. But the point is, we could get that sad stuff out of the way now and
Yeah,
talk about the rest of the episode and how I love that connection you made with, like, it all started with the train. It all
yeah,
started with the train and why, and they I love the way this episode told that story
yeah,
of him and Roy back in the day and looking at the trains, and then John Hench said the story about the doctor saying you need a hobby, and then Roy Jr. saying, oh, that the little model train set lasted 15 minutes. So he had Roger Brogy make the one of a, I never realized that ride-on one in his backyard was a one of a kind.
yeah. Something
I
that was
never,
made in the shop.
yeah, like by machine shop guys who
I just thought he bought it
genuinely,
somewhere.
but think, when I thought of machine shop guys, every time I had heard that story before, I thought like, oh yeah, guys that work and make animatronics. No, this was before this. This is
Before Disneyland.
the machine shop guys were literally guys that worked on movie cameras.
They didn't work
That's
on movie
it.
sets.
Like, well, I suppose, but like in my head, I'm thinking like machine shop guys at a movie studio. Or like Roger Brogy was the same guy that like made the circle vision camera thing, and like
Mm,
and his son, I think, made the projector box for the loop cabinet for the Star Tours. I think
mm,
that's all. It's like those guys.
mhm.
It's like those guys are the guys that made um this big old ride-on train. And then like and the
Well, they're
beautiful story of the curved track. It could be cheaper
oh
if you do build it straight. And the dude, if you think I was trying to save money, I wouldn't be doing any of this. Like,
yeah. I wrote this down. He said, "If you think I wanted to save money, I wouldn't be messing around with an expensive miniature train."
yeah, come on, man.
I mean,
Who are you
it is
telling?
a good point. I'm obviously not here to save money if I'm, you know, making a train in my backyard. In 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 Folsom, California, where I used to live, at the library, there is a miniature train, and it is so cool. Somehow, and the guy who drives the train, he owns the train and somehow made some kind of deal with the city, and he uses it on the on the property of the library. But it's a miniature steam engine, and it's like two seats side by side. And a lot of times you go to like one of those kind of little kiddie trains, they're usually not an actual mini steam engine. They're usually just some electric vehicle that, or some propane or whatever vehicle that looks like a train, but
Yeah,
it's an actual miniature steam engine,
which
and
seems
it's
so
fascinating.
unsafe.
Probably.
Yeah, like even for Waltz, one of a kind one. It's like, dude, are you sure that's safe? Like, has anyone checked this other than your guy that makes cameras? Like, like, like I'd be afraid to ride on it. That one or this one that you're talking about. Like
Well,
like
he's been running there for like 25 years, so I think it's fine. But maybe I'll just rationalize it because I've taken my son on it a bunch of times. But it is really interesting though, because the guy also used to be an engineer at Disneyland, And then he left, and then I don't know his story and how this entrepreneurial venture came about, but he somehow purchased this train and started running it there, and cost $3 a ticket to go on this train. And it's a really cool thing because I mean, you can go up, if you're close, I mean, you can see the fire in there. You can see that it's
So is it coal? Is it like burning coal and to heat the boiler to?
I don't know if it's actual coal. It's really heating a boiler, but
If
it
there's a
might be.
fire, if there's a fire, it's probably coal.
It's got to be, yeah, because you can see the fire inside. His actual engine, he said that it is like it was built in like the 40s or something like that. It's not a new thing. It's something that was built in the 40s. And he said that there's like, he has another one that's a more modern one. He has a more modern, it's not a steam. It it is a train, but it's a modern looking thing. Not nearly as cool to see or to go on, but he uses it a lot because what he told me is that there's only one company in the entire Western United States that has the know-how to repair this particular steam engine. And that one company also repairs Disneylands. And whenever Disneyland has
Probably knots too.
trouble, huh?
Probably knots too.
Yeah, they probably do knots as well. Yeah, I'm sure. And so he said his problem is whenever he gets them to, they come out to do it, it doesn't matter how long he's been in line. If Disney has a problem, they're immediately bumped in. So he's like, whenever it happens, he has no idea how long it's going to take for it to be fixed. But anyway, I was just thinking about it because it's small. It's not quite that small. It's not right on. He was telling me it's like one. I don't understand. They measure it by the size of the track is how they define what size it is. And he says it's basically one size up. Like he sits on the engine, but he's not sitting with his legs over it. He's sitting in like a seat. And then the cars behind, they're wide enough for an adult and a child, but not two adults.
Like
so
Big
it's not,
Thunder Mountain?
No, much smaller than Thunder Mountain. Yeah, it's smaller than Thunder Mountain. But anyway, I was just thinking about that when it comes to like a train and how that whole thing. And anyway, but that also brings up the old trains and how I guess whatever one those original trains they got were not trains that they didn't build those. They purchased those and they existed for decades before.
Yeah, that's wild. It's wild to think of all the things in Disneyland that are older than Disneyland. And so you got like a palm tree, that old rock, the carousel, and the trains. That's about it. Like that's pretty wild.
Are the trains there? The trains there now aren't older than the park.
No, I think they're retrofitted.
Really?
I think they are the same trains.
So they retrofitted them to be able to do the
biodiesel.
Different.
Yeah,
the biodiesel.
Well, I said I wasn't going to say anything else sad, but there's one more about the biodiesel. I was so happy, like as someone who cares about the environment and carbon credits and reducing Disneyland's carbon footprint and everything. I was so happy to find out when they swapped the trains and the subs over to the biodiesel that I think I heard at some point was made with the used cooking oil from Disneyland. Now, if that was true, they probably would have mentioned it in this episode. And I didn't go and look that up to verify it, but that would be cool either way. Either way, it does reduce the carbon footprint of the subs that used to run on diesel and the trains that used to run on coal. And I remember as a kid how the fire looked when it ran on coal and what it smelled like versus the change. I remember the difference. Like, and that's rad. That's really cool. I remember when the old trams that I want to riff on in a second that run off of diesel were replaced with the new trams that run off of the natural gas, and the smell being totally different. But going back to the trains and the subs swapping to biodiesel, that reduced their carbon footprint so much that because of the size of the park or the company, Disney has to count their carbon credits, and they have to stay within a certain whatever they promised to, or I don't know how that works. So I thought, oh, great, they're lowering their ecological footprint. No. They said, oh, great, we reduced our ecological footprint by switching the subs and the trains to biodiesel. That means we can put out more fireworks. And so they upped the number of fireworks they used and stayed at the same carbon credit level. I was like, oh gosh, we can't solve climate change like that. Like, you can't just move it around. That's not the point. Use the more efficient thing, use the thing that pumps out less carbon, and pump out less carbon. Like, that's the point. Like, you can't just,
Well, that's assuming that was their question. How can we, I don't think that was the question. But I wonder now, because
the way they pitched it in their own press releases was, look at us.
Yeah.
Pat us on the back. We're reducing our carbon footprint of the trains and the subs as we increase it with the fireworks. Like, come on.
When was that? When was that?
Sometime within the 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Because I'm curious now, because they've, not just because of COVID, but before that, they've dramatically reduced the amount of fireworks as projections have become bigger. As projections have become more of a thing. There's certainly less fireworks. I don't think that that's an ecological reason. I think that's an economic reason. Fireworks are very expensive, and projections, you make them once and you do it, and then they're there. We didn't mention this earlier. We were talking about this right before we started recording, but my brother my brother and my parents just went to Disney World, and one thing that Kenny and I talked about was he was just floored with the projections at Disney World. So he saw the new show, and I know there's mixed reviews about the new show, but even though in the last several years he hasn't been as much of a park goer as maybe we have been, but he was just as much into Disney, if not more, than I ever was for a long period of time. And he was saying that he felt like that fireworks show was the best fireworks show he'd ever seen.
That's rad. That's actually,
he loved it. And specifically because the projections, he was just floored by how good they are. And the projections at Disney World on the Disney World Castle, I'm not sure why, but their projections are better than the Disneyland projections. I don't know. It's not just that it's a bigger canvas to be on. The actual quality of the projections, I don't know why, but they're better at Disney World.
Yeah, your brother is a good litmus test or lens through which to view a lot of this, because he's as big of a fan as either one of us.
Totally.
But he doesn't consume nearly as much content as we do.
Yeah.
So he's almost a more pure lens to see.
Yeah, he has no lens of other people's opinions when he goes and watches something. Because me, I already have 10 people's opinions on what they thought.
Which has its pros and cons. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but we'll have him on an episode eventually.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see his perspective and think about us going next year and all that jazz. But it's funny to think about how this episode could have been entitled Trains, Trams, and Monorails, or it could have been entitled Boats, Gondolas, and Things with Tracks, or it could have been entitled Things with Wheels, or it could have been entitled Kinetic Energy.
Yes.
Or it could have been entitled The Vehicles Episode, right? But when you talk about that really great line, it all started with a mouse, the parks all started with a train. That's I'm going to borrow that because that's fantastic. When you talk about things that you wish they said in the episode, one of the Imagineers did say that, referring to Tomorrowland being the world on the move. That was one phrase that needed to be in this episode. But the phrase that was missing from this episode was that the 67 version of Tomorrowland was Tomorrowland on the move. Tomorrowland on the move. And that's, I think we've riffed on this before, that after that incarnation of Tomorrowland, you could, so between 67 and 95, you could stand on the monorail platform and see like 9 different things moving. Right?
Yeah. It's such a cool thing to see. You think about it, you see the monorail, you see the sky buckets, you see the people mover, you see the rockets, you're seeing the Autopia, you're seeing,
come on, get them all.
From there, you'd still see the submarine. You'd even see Matterhorn from there,
and the motorboats.
Oh, yeah,
and the train.
You're right, because from the platform, you'd see that
9 things in motion, and only like the motorboats aren't there anymore. The Skyway, people mover, the rockets are moved. You can't see those from there anymore. So it's like, let's put everything in a box. Let's put everything in some big old show building that we hide instead. Why? Because it's easier to maintain, because it's not outside. Like, what's the deal?
Well,
Like,
and there is also the show. You do have to say, let's look on the other side though. When something's in a show building, you're able to control the lighting. You're able to, you're not looking at it as day and night. I mean, Space Mountain couldn't exist and outside.
That's true. That's true.
It's interesting. There in that episode of I think it was the season pass interviews with why am I forgetting his name right now?
The season pass guy?
No, not the season pass guy. The guy he interviewed 9 times that I loved.
Oh,
why am I forgetting this? It's Tony Baxter.
You forgot Tony Baxter. I'm gonna go get my Tony Baxter fan club merchandise and put it in your face to say 5 Hail Mary Tony Baxters. How dare you forget the sacred saint of this, the patron saint of the Creative Kingdom Society, His Holiness Tony Baxter himself. Yes. Yeah.
Well, my mind went blank. Anyway,
that's okay. We're all human, brother. We forgive you in this cult.
Thank you. So he was talking about the Hagrid ride at Universal, and that was one of his. He said, "Oh, it's so great, but man, if they could have had it in a show building, it could have been so much better because they would have had." The lighting, he said it because he said, I went on at night during the day. And he said during the day, it just didn't have anywhere close to the same magic as night. And then he also mentioned it was 100 degrees and 100% humidity. And so it didn't have the same kind of thing. So there is a benefit.
Sometimes sometimes the bees shut that ride down.
I've heard that. Goo, that'd be terrible.
Oh, this is totally a tangent. And I did. I don't know how long this episode is going to be tonight, but I got too much show and tell stuff, so I can give up anything else I have to say about the episode just to do the show and tell stuff.
Yeah, come and do show and tell.
So, but someone else I wanted to mention, if we had more time, just to riff on your Harry Potter tangent for a second, was someone I don't think we've ever mentioned on this show before, is Theme Park Stop. Have you heard of any theme park stop? I think that's, now I'm second guessing the name, but they do a bunch of really good news episodes on YouTube and a podcast.
Theme park
They,
stop.
yeah, I think that's what it is. I'll look it up right now. But they did a
Yeah, I'm looking up right now.
They did a fantastic episode on. They do a lot of really good construction type episodes, especially looking at patents and design or permits and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they did one about Epic Universe and their Harry Potter land there that they're building, and some of the rides that are coming there. To your point about the critique of Harry Potter rides need to be in a box. That the two that they pitched in this most recent episode, it was entitled Epic Universe Update, Harry Potter or Fantastic Beasts. Both of those ride technology make me totally want to make a trip to go on those. It's like unique, like
yeah.
I don't want to spoil it, but it talk about doing an indoor ride right. Ooh, that looks really exciting.
I want to do a trip just to go to Universal and go to all the Harry Potter stuff. That's something.
Have you not done those yet? Yeah.
I haven't. No.
Oh, you and you guys got to do that. Yeah. Anyway,
well,
so
and I like, and I'll just say this: like, I like Harry Potter, but my wife loves it.
Yeah.
I like it, but she just like absolutely loves it. So that's something that we need to do, but we just kind of never have. So
okay, before I riff before any other tangents, this is my favorite monorail mug, and it's got both in English and Spanish. Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las puertas, right? Have you seen all the footage of like all the times the doors don't close?
No.
Oh, they're so scary. They terrify me, and they make me feel bad about times.
Like the doors don't close. They don't close, and then it takes off.
Yeah.
Like a helicopter with the doors open.
Yeah, it looks scary, and I feel bad because I remember times as a teenager in Florida when I would go and I would hold the thing, I would hold the pole that the door's connected to, and like kind of slow it down, and like I broke it, like. But I'm sure I'm not the only person that ever did that, right? But like that's dangerous. That's scary. Yeah. Like when they say stay away from the doors, it's because sometimes they don't close. Like stay away from the flipping doors. I've been going through some old family footage of old trips, seeing my little brother dancing out by the door, and my parents like saying, "Hey, get away from the door," thinking like, "What if it actually opened?" Like,
yeah.
So that's not a joke. Like that's not to just cover their butts. Like that's like, hey, stay away from the doors. This is a really cool mode of transportation, but it's not perfectly safe.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, who was the number one star of this episode?
I don't know.
Come on. Grandfather designer of the monorail himself. They got all the best quotes, all the best clips of him acting crazy.
Yes.
Bob
and I'm
Gurr, the man.
Okay, so you say Bob Gurr's the man. Yeah. I loved him saying the Nixon story. I loved him, all that. Absolutely.
Pretending to like whatever. He was just acting crazy. And like he's always like that. No one's a bigger fan of Bob Gurr than I am. I've met Tony Baxter a couple times, but I've met Bob Gurr half a dozen times. And what I wanted to share right now, and I forgot to ask you for permissions on the thing.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Share my screen. For show and tell, I don't only have a few items to show and tell, and the shirt to show and tell, because no one's a bigger Bob Gurr mark than me. Have your people call my people on the People Mover. I'm stoked that Disneyland sold this shirt in like 2015, 16, 17, somewhere in there, 18. but I'm mad at them for like rubbing this in my face and all the fans' face. Like you all leave the People Mover track up there for decades now, and you're still trying to milk me for merch. You know, I'll buy it every time, but like, put it back. Do something.
I don't understand why they can't just put it back.
And like, even this week, the news was not the news of a new Tomorrowland. It was the news of a new Toontown. Well, like what?
Yeah.
Like why that now? Like, why not? Like Tomorrowland has been put aside for far too long. Anyway, Bob Gurr monorail stuff. I'm going to show you all this stuff, but let me show you 3 pictures of me and Bob Gurr.
Okay, yeah. I loved him talking about the design, how they designed it, how it was all ugly.
Okay, can you see that well? Does it fit?
Yeah, of course.
Like, okay.
Oh, that's great. What a great picture.
So this is a picture of me showing Bob Gurr all of my monorail pins. I've got like 30 different monorail pins. Those are all open set, open edition. Like those are on all the pin trader boards. It's hard to get the full set of each one, but there's been several sets of these, all different colors, all different models. Those are fun to collect. And my People Mover pins, which are not official. Those are not real Disney pins. Those are just fan made. But he got really excited seeing all of those. And this was at the Tomorrowland movie premiere, blue carpet premiere at Downtown Disney. And this was a really fun event that my kids and I stumbled into. We didn't even know it was
awesome.
happening. Yeah. This is where my kids met all the actors. I got a picture with Keegan-Michael Key and with Bob Gurr. Those are the only 2 pictures I got. But my kids got pictures with nearly everyone else except George Clooney. And the most special picture we got that day was with my kids and Richard Sherman. He's still alive, right? Is it Robert? Now I'm second guessing. Yeah, but the still living Sherman brother, because Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow was in that movie. Bob Gurr was there, not as part of the movie. He was just there. Like, because like, yeah, like, and you see he's wearing a little Tomorrowland pin right there. But so that was a really fun event. This one is a picture of me and him. This is at a Mice Chat event. I got his autograph on a documentary that was made about him, a low budget. It was decent. It was a solidly decent document. It wasn't great, but it was still really good. And but this is the event where he claimed to remember seeing me before. And he said, "How could I forget that glowing orb with the red skirt?" And like that, and this picture was taken right after he said that, and I was tripping. Okay, and then this is my favorite picture with the man in front of one of the original People Mover vehicles.
That's great.
He's the designer of it himself. And this was at probably the coolest non-official Disney event I've ever been to, which was That's from Disneyland auction, where they had a free open to see everything in the auction for like 3 weeks ahead of time before the actual auction, where that one rich producer guy, I forgot his name, who had a bunch of stuff, millions of dollars worth of stuff, was just ready to sell it all and donate it all to a charity. And it was just a really cool way. Like his deal with the auction house was, okay, we were going to do this with the auction house and with the charity, but you got to let people come and look at it all first.
Yes.
And I love that idea of like that impulse that Walt had, like, everyone's got to ride my train. this guy had, hey, everyone's got to see the cool stuff first, even though everyone that comes to see it can't afford to get any of it, right?
Yeah.
Like this went for like $200,000. Like
Wow.
who are these people, man? But
Yeah.
they had all these ride vehicles. He had this big D from the sign from the Disneyland Hotel that we talked about in a previous episode.
Oh, wow.
Like he had like, and it was in this building, and it was like 30 feet tall. Like it was huge. And I think John Stamos ended up buying that or something. I don't know. But this was a really fun event, and
That's cool.
I thought those 3 pictures were worth sharing in this episode specifically.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That's awesome. I love when people are cool. Like when
Yeah.
people often say don't meet your heroes, but sometimes it just end up being really awesome people.
I am sure that there are things that Bob Gurr and I would disagree on. Probably, well, I don't know, but I'm sure that there are.
Sure.
But of the 6 times we've met, those have all been super positive experiences.
Yeah.
One of the times was at a Justin Scard Random Land event where I got
Oh, cool.
this. Sorry for the reflection.
Oh, that is great.
This is a replica of the permit for my favorite ride ever for the design, and he autographed it for me.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's one thing for show and tell.
Hey,
Of course, I have. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, since you're showing that, why is the people mover in Florida not look like that?
The people mover in Florida is not the people mover, even though they call it that now. I think originally it was called Tomorrowland Transit Authority.
Okay.
Or something like that. But because the people mover is loved and the name is loved, I think they brought in the name later. I think I'm not positive on that, but the original people mover, sponsored by Goodyear, invented by Walt in a pitch meeting.
Yeah.
Like he riffed on in this episode. Oh, like the brakes of those, we'll use it like the brakes of the Matterhorn. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob, can you make that? Okay, good. Yeah, yes, I can. And then I go figure out how, you say yes, and then you figure it out. It moved with Goodyear tires constantly spinning.
Yeah.
And the train was long enough that it was always touching at least 2 tires, I think. So it would never break down. Even if one of the motors on one of the tires broke, it would still not break down. And that's the beauty of the design. But that has moving parts that wear out and tires that wear out. In Disneyland, we don't have so much rain. So you could make these things that move around on a track that just have cover for shade on each individual car. But because this track and train design was pushed and pulled by motors, by a rolling wheel, it could go up and down and change elevation. Okay, what are we going to do in Florida? The same thing? Well, we want a people mover. We wanted to go through show buildings because that's cool. But we get a lot of rain here. So instead of having each car with a cover, let's just cover the whole track. Okay, that's smart. And let's not use motors with moving parts and wheels that wear out and need to be replaced. Let's use the newer technology. Magnets. Oh, but if we use the magnets, it's got to stay level and it can't go up and down.
Yeah.
Okay, We'll build it all on the second floor, one level, flat. We need the overhang to be really good to keep out the rain because of the magnets. And it'll be flat. That way we don't need the cover. And that's why it looks different. That's your long answer for why it looks different in Florida.
No, I didn't know that. Because I was always curious. And it did feel less. I didn't really think about it as to why, but it did feel. I just thought it was because I was older. I don't know, but it felt less exciting than it did when I was a kid.
It's the
but
elevation change.
Yeah. Now you think about that track, it's going up and down, it has more movement and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's funny. I was on the monorail looking down at the People Mover track. It's strange to see the People Mover track with like it looks like it needs a gardener to go on and rake the leaves that are all over it.
Yeah.
Like
it's like that neglected.
Yeah, totally. Well, and the fact, which is funny because you can see it, it's not like it's out of view.
You can't even get a guy with a blower up there in the morning to blow it off like that. Like and neglect, man. But I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 other things to show. Of course, I'd buy a little knickknack. It's funny. I never thought of myself as a little boy who liked trains or trucks. Right? Like, but you show me a People Mover or a monorail, I turn into a 4-year-old boy again. Yeah. Like for some reason, to me, like some kids, Walt, it was a steam train. Other kids younger than us, it was like Thomas the Tank Engine, or like. But I never cared for any of that. Maybe the A-Team van, maybe I'd geek out for that. But otherwise, People Mover and a monorail, I'll buy almost anything with the People Mover and the monorail. But not just that. I've got one of the big ones that go around the Christmas tree, right?
Oh, that's
I have one of those, right?
That goes all the way around the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. I've never seen one of those. Because we have
also shout out to what's his name, Braden from Mickey Views.
Yeah.
Let's not forget how that kid started. That kid started when he was like 10 or 12 with the review
of those, right?
An unboxing of the monorail. Yeah. Good on that kid, man. Shout out to Mickey Views. Like I said, I'd buy anything with a monorail on it. These are my favorite pair of socks. But probably the oddest thing that I own, one of that relates to this episode, and it's probably one of the oddest pieces of Disney merchandise I've ever purchased. It's not the most rare. I have a couple pins that are like one of 1,000. This is from a set that's one of 3,000, but it was a cast member exclusive because who else would buy this? But when I think of the tram at Disneyland, I don't think of the old one they showed where you sit vertically and there's one wheel. That was a weird looking one. I don't think of the current one with the natural gas that they showed. I think of the version they didn't show.
Yes.
Do you remember which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The one that we knew from the 80s and 90s.
Yes, exactly.
That's probably the strangest piece of merchandise I've ever purchased. Like, why would anyone even want to own this, right? But just thinking about how this was the tram of my youth. This was the tram I felt talk about a ride before you get to the park. This felt more dangerous to me as a child than any ride I rode at the park. Because there was no seat belts and there were no doors. And every time it took off, I was convinced, right or wrong, that I was going to fall out. And I felt like I was cheating death every time. And I thought it was wild how the people just stood in the back, leaning against a little piece of metal. and I thought it was so dangerous and sketchy. But I thought that was a crazy thing to add to this episode on trams.
That's awesome. Well, like you said, or like they said in the episode, it's the first ride of the day.
Yeah,
And,
it
and
is.
back then, it just picked you up in random places in the parking lot.
It sounds so archaic.
I mean, I don't remember. Did you like hail it like a cab, or were there
Oh, there were like
stops?
specific spots that you had to walk to. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
And you would always try to get a spot right by one of those spots.
Yeah, you'd
So
want to park near there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Kind of
so
like the
interesting.
Toy Story lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, no lots now because you just walk.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, that reminds me of another, you know how on WDW News Tonight, they have those spoof commercials?
Yeah.
There's one right now that's complaining about there not being a tram, right? And it's like, welcome to the Run Disney parking lot 5K, where you enter no matter what. Everyone's automatically entered into the parking lot 5K. But if you send us $75 at the end, we'll send you this medal for winning in the parking lot 5K, where you have no choice but to run the 5K. Like, because we're not running the trams.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, it's funny because it's true, but it's not a big deal to me. But like, my parents, they're coming with us. We're going in January together, and we're specifically going to stay in a hotel that is within walking distance on the other side because they don't want to have to go somewhere where they need to park. Now I said, well, I could drop you off at the front and then go around and park. But then that's a lot of trouble to go through that. Cause like for them that they only have so many steps in a day before they're done.
That's
And
real.
so that adds a lot of steps. Like I don't mind it, but there's a huge part of the population that it's a huge deal. A day at Disneyland's already a lot of walking. And you
Yeah,
add
I'm not
that.
used to it. I'm not used to it anymore. I haven't been used to that in a long time. Like, I'm scared to go to Florida. I'm scared. Like they said at the beginning of this episode, the average is 8 miles a day. I'm not used to that. I can't do that 5 days in a row. I can't do that one day in a row. I mean, I could do it one day in a row, but it'll take me 2 or 3 days to recover. Like,
Uh,
I gotta like train.
you got
I
to
gotta start
treat.
training to go to
Yeah.
Florida because
Yeah.
I can't handle 8 miles a day, 6 days in a row. Like, I'm gonna have to pace myself or rent a scooter or something. That sounds so lame, but it's real. And when we're talking about our parents going and stuff, it's like, wow, that's something we gotta like build up for. And so
Yeah, for sure.
it's a funny spoof. Like, you're entered into this 5K, whether you want to or not.
Well, you're going to go more than 5K in a day for sure. Everyone
But
does,
no, but
especially when
like
you add
just the
that.
parking lot, just the
Yeah.
parking lot is like a 5K. That's just
Yeah. Okay. Couple more things. I just want to cover a couple more things, then I need to run for the night. But they said something I didn't understand. They said that the purpose of the lagoon was to disperse the crowd. Do you remember them saying that?
yeah.
I
I
didn't.
feel like some of these things were cut and out of and like then not enough context was given. Like,
Because they said what we learned from Disneyland was that we needed to disperse the crowd, and they said we put in this lagoon so that we could disperse the crowd. And I don't know what they're talking about.
yeah, like
Because
yeah.
they wanted the parking lot far away. I don't really. I mean, I think it's kind of cool to have the parking lot over there. It kind of gives a separation between. I'm sure there are some other reasons because the whole thing is a swamp. There's probably some logistical reasons as well. But
I thought it was just because it's really cool.
yeah,
Like, I thought that was the reason. I thought it was like, I thought it was like, oh, let's build a lagoon because that would be cool. not because we have to disperse the crowd. You're right.
Well, I don't even know what
Well,
that means is what
yeah,
I'm
I don't get it
I'm
either.
just curious. What did that mean? I don't
Yeah.
understand it.
And at one point, they said like, "Oh yeah, we're comparable to like Manhattan or San Francisco or Atlanta." And I was like, "Wait, can you explain like which one?"
Oh, they were talking about the bus. They were talking about the bus fleet.
Yeah, but like Atlanta's way bigger. Like, I
They were talking
didn't
about
get,
number of buses and number of people using the bus in a day.
was that the comparison?
Yeah, they were talking
I guess
about
I just needed someone to make it more clear to me too. Like,
yeah. So that analogy there, or that discussion was about showcasing how big this fleet is. They said, I don't remember the number, but it was something in like the top. It was like in the top 30 bus fleets in the world,
oh
something
wow.
like that. Someone can
Wow.
uh
Correct us in the
someone can
comments.
yeah, someone can correct us, but it was something like that. But they were saying, I didn't think it was New York and San Francisco is when they talked about the size of it, but they said that they were comparable to the city of Atlanta when it came to the bus fleet
I
and how
didn't
many
make
people
that
use the
connection.
bus.
Yeah.
Because at Disney World, when you're staying on site, the buses are doing everything. I mean, the buses are doing the heavy lifting. Um, because unless you're in one of the hotels that the monorail goes to, you're pretty much going to be using the buses instead. And then the other thing is that the buses are so much cheaper than adding more monorails and adding more, other things like this. What did they say? It said 20 tons and 65 feet long, each one of those, just the cement pillars, just that alone. Um, I loved them saying that one of them fell off the train. That just sounds crazy on the way over. But yeah, I think they were talking about that. It is interesting with the whole bus thing and everything. I don't know what it'll be like now. I'm curious what it will be like. Um, this year now and into the future. But when I rode the Skyway, is that what it's called? The Disney Skyway?
I
Yeah.
think so. It's funny how
I,
much we're second guessing ourselves tonight.
well, I just don't remember what
Yeah, I
the
think that's what it's
names.
called. Yeah.
I mean, I
The
always like
gondola
refer
thing.
to it as the Sky Buckets because it was nostalgic, but I think it's called the Disney Skyway. My experience with it was that it was a fun ride outside of the park and get to see everything. And they mentioned that here. That's kind of like a ride. You get to see everything. It was really fun to see from above. There was one point above where I was going over some lagoon. I could see a gator in there. I could actually
Oh
see
wow.
like from
That's cool.
above. I could see. I was like, oh, geez, they really are there. So and that's really cool. But as for transportation, it was very inconvenient in terms of how much time it took. The bus was much quicker, but those things can fit 12 people inside of each one. They can fit six. Yeah, you're tight, but you could fit theoretically two parties up to six in the
But
same
not during
monorail.
COVID.
But that's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
but now they're booking. They're filling them. Now what they're doing is they're filling them with, I think, two parties now. But back then they were only filling it with one party, even if our party was four people. So
Mm,
I don't know. This was designed before COVID, and then this is
right,
going on
right.
during COVID. So when I was using it, it was fun to ride, but it wasn't an effective mode of transportation because it just
Right.
took way too long to get there. And I could have, I mean, I could have taken the bus there before I even got on it.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious to see how the effectiveness of it has changed now that they're filling them.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be interesting too. Like I want to, I could talk about this episode all night, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of follow up that I'm interested in on this episode. You said the next episode is really good too, and I'm sure I'm going to love that one too. I haven't watched it
Presidents.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll be our last episode, of this review experiment with Behind the Attraction. But I only had one other thing that I thought was worth mentioning for sure about this episode. Do you have anything else to mention for sure about this
I
episode?
do. I have two more things that I want to mention.
I just have one. We might have the same one too. You want to go
Well,
first?
let me share one that I don't think you'll have.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
did not know that this picture right here,
Oh yeah, that's worth mentioning.
I did not know that this picture right behind me
Was the
was
last
Walt
time.
Disney's last day in the park.
That's really awesome that you have it. Yeah. What is
I
your
had
plaque? What
no,
does the plaque say?
it's a signature. It's a
Oh,
signature of, it's, you know,
oh, that's really cool.
I don't know exactly where this came from, like where it was originally purchased. Kenny gave it to me.
I
I
didn't
don't know
know that
where.
was his last time either until
Yeah,
this
but
episode.
I've always seen this picture, and then I've
Yeah,
had this for years. But until today, I did not know that this was his last time in the park. I thought that was
that's
very cool.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And to his credit and to your point, uh, I really like what this episode tried to do to vindicate his idea of a monorail actually working in an actual city by
Mm,
showing it go through that building in China and being
yes.
functional and reliable and helpful in a big populated place. And I like, even if it wasn't a home run, it was a really good sort of vindication sort of story, a good
Yeah.
cherry on top of that episode, I think.
Yeah, I did like that. But my last thing I wanted to share was very interesting hearing Walt talk about his brother, the mailman.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
I thought it was fascinating him saying that he was the smart Disney because he worked his job as the mailman. He didn't have to worry about payroll. He didn't have to worry about the box office. He didn't have to worry about all these things. He had his camper trailer and he went off and did. It was just interesting hearing him talk about that because obviously I don't think that Walt really felt that way, at least not all the time. But I'm sure there were days, considering that his doctor prescribed to him a hobby. His doctor prescribed a hobby.
Doctors didn't have as many tools back then as they got today, but no, we get why he did that.
That's true.
But you're right. Yeah, I'm sure that most of the time he was like, I'm having way more fun than my boring mailman brother. I'm sure most of the time he was like that, but I'm
But
sure
there were some
sometimes
days.
he felt like, man, I should have just been a mailman. Like, I'm sure there was. Yeah. Especially on the
Totally.
dark days. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
Well,
worth mentioning too. A lot
yeah,
of
I just
Walt
thought,
love in this episode, a lot of Bob Gurr love in this episode, a lot of kinetic energy love in this episode. It was a really good episode.
yeah, I absolutely loved it. If you haven't watched it yet, then I don't know why you're watching this. You know, you should have watched that and then watch this. But
Hey, tomato. Order doesn't matter. Enjoy it all.
that's true. They could watch this and then go there. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. Let us know in the comments. We're excited for more episodes coming out. We're going to be finishing this series, one more episode, and then we got some exciting things planned for you. So until then, thanks for watching. We're so excited that you're here. Thank you very much.
Keep creating and keep consuming.